My name is Jacqueline Antonacci. I work on our social media team where I am responsible for helping to manage our flagship Vanderbilt accounts, as well as our alumni accounts, athletics, helps with some leadership, all things social media, you name it. And so I'm super excited to be talking with you all today about how you can help participate in our social media and web community by creating digital presences of your own. So I wanted to lay the groundwork for today by talking generally about why it's important to create and maintain a digital presence. So starting with the ability to bring more attention to and a greater understanding of the work that you are doing and its implications. By creating your own space online that you own, you're creating a digital home base where you can represent yourself in the ways that you want. You can talk and present your work in the ways that you want. You have this place where anyone can find you and learn more about you. And you can also reach your key audiences where they are. And this is especially true of your social media channels, where much of your audience likely already exists. And as Lacey is about to elaborate on, people online are going to be searching for you. And these websites and these social media channels give your audiences a channel that you control where they can learn more about you. And creating a website, maintaining social media pages, being active on them, those are things that help you show up higher in those search rankings so you can be more easily found. And also through these channels, you can become more broadly popular, well-known as experts, and you can use them to connect with journalists, peers, funding agencies, policymakers, and more. And you also have access to do things like join in at conversations at conferences and events and other sort of digital spaces where conversations are taking place. And probably the best way I can explain to you as to why it is important for you to build a digital presence is the power of Google. So as we kick things off, we wanted to start off with a quick activity that may be a little bit scary for some of you. So we wanted to take a few minutes to either pull up on your phone or in another browser someplace on your computer. I want you to do a quick Google of yourself. So type in your name and see what comes up. And this will give you a sense of what others are going to see when they are looking for you. So look through what comes up in your first couple of results, maybe click through to a couple of other pages, look what shows up in your images tab. And if you have a common first and last name, maybe try typing your name in quotation marks if you're not seeing, your own results pop up right away. Type in your name plus Vanderbilt if you're still having trouble finding yourself, or your name plus your industry or area of expertise. And if anyone is feeling particularly brave, I think Lacey is willing to do sort of a live Google demonstration where she can talk through some of your results. So Lacey, I will kick it over to you.
Cool. I'm switching over to Google. Yeah, if anybody would like to be the guinea pig, I'm going to Google myself. So we can see I'm not a faculty member, as a staff member, so I don't have any like publications or anything that's going on. But we're definitely going to Google Derek in a minute too, because he has a good kind of Google profile here. My other suggestion to you would be when you are Googling yourself, especially if you're using Chrome, do it in incognito. And that way you're going to be viewing results not localized. So when you're Googling just on your normal computer, Google actually knows where you are. So like if you Google Vanderbilt and you're in Nashville, Vanderbilt is automatically going to show up higher because Google knows where you are. And so it's going to give preferential treatment to sites that are kind of in your local area. But by using that incognito window, that's going to show you what everyone else that might be Googling you from outside of this area is going to see. So it's a more realistic view of, are you actually going to show up in results or not? Because if you're Googling yourself in Nashville and you have any sort of online presence, you're going to show up probably because, again, Google knows you're here. So again, incognito window in Google Chrome, that's just file, new incognito window. And basically that just means you're in like a private browsing session, and it's not telling Google what your IP address, where you are, all of that jazz. And also this is super handy if you're, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, if you're trying to figure out if your research shows up in certain topics. Doing it with that incognito window, again, is going to get you the most realistic view of where you actually are showing up in results. So always, if you're doing it for research purposes to try and figure out where you are, incognito window is the way to go. So I'm going to Google myself and I'm just going to do my name and that's it. And that is me that pops up. I love Jacqueline's suggestion to like check the photos too, because I've actually gone through and years later, there will be photos of me from like conferences from years ago. And I'll be like, wow, that photo is still showing up from this conference. So it's handy to know what photos are showing up, what's being associated with you. Like my Pinterest profile photo is showing up as one of my photos, and keeping that in mind
Hey,
of that.
Lacey,
Yes.
we are not seeing your window.
You're not seeing my window. Oh,
No.
okay. Let me switch. Stop share. It opened it in a new window. Sorry.
Aha. Yeah.
Share window. Not that one. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Here it is. Yeah. Sure. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes. There
How
we
can you
go.
see me now? So again, I Googled just my name, Lacey Pascal in incognito. And so it is pulling me up first. Again, I have a more unusual name than some people's. Just the spelling of both of those words is more unique than some other people's names. So my LinkedIn profile is showing up top, which is great. And then again, when I'm talking about images, like one of these images is actually my Pinterest profile. So that's something that you should definitely keep in mind, is that if you have public social media presences, those photos and those profile photos are going to show up tied to your name in theory. So keep that in mind. Of also, if you post anything on the internet ever, it always exists, especially if it's on a public profile. So keeping that in mind that you're kind of constantly curating what your online persona is. And that includes not only your work persona, that if you have those personal things out there, they are going to pop up. So if you want them to reflect the same kind of professional experience and all of that, then you need to kind of keep that in mind or make them private. But even if they are private, your profile photo might still pop up from those platforms, because usually profile photos are still public. So again, I've just Googled myself. I'm showing my LinkedIn profile, which is great. Like, I love that that's my number one thing that pops up. Next is my Twitter profile. The next one is actually my page on my my team's website for digital strategy. So it's my author page of like things that I've written there. Next up is I'm a frequent author on the COVID website for Vanderbilt. And so just because my name is associated with a lot of posts on the Vanderbilt COVID website, that's actually popping up as my number 4 result, which is really interesting. That makes me want to go in there and change all of those to be Vanderbilt authored and not Lacey authored. It's totally fine, but it's actually just, I happen to be the one posting the content. And then after this, you're going to see like, this is me presenting at a conference several years ago, my Foursquare profile, which I haven't updated in years and is still here. I feel like I actually deleted my Foursquare profile, but it's still here. Because I do actually regularly Google myself, and I will delete profiles. I will reach out to different things. If I want my information removed for whatever reason, I do constantly kind of look at this and review it and make sure that like I'm okay with everything that's on here. My Instagram is showing up here. This is a great example of my Instagram is private, but it's going to be linked here because it does have my name associated with it. Now you're not going to be able to see anything if you click on there, but it is associated with my name, so it's going to pop up. So the other thing that Jacqueline kind of suggested is, yeah, go to that images tab and it's going to show you all the images. Some of these images might be really weird, right? Because other people might have your name, or you're associated on a website with content like this is another Lacey Pascal that's clearly spelling her name incorrectly, but it's pulling up for me. And so there's different things that are going to pull up here. So make sure like, hey, are you okay with the content that's being shown? The news tab, I don't have anything in news about me, which is totally fine. Different videos, I'm probably going to see, oh yeah, we're back to the COVID website. I've got videos associated with my name. There's a Brightspace video, which actually I think that's probably Derek, but it's somehow associated with my name instead. So Derek and we have got a little meshing going on here with the Vanderbilt universe. Anyway, highly recommend that you Google yourself. So I'm going to Google Derek really quickly, but if anybody else would like to volunteer to be Googled live on here, let's do it. So I Googled Derek earlier to make sure that what I expected to happen would happen. And so Derek obviously highly curates his online persona. He has had his own website for as long as I've known Derek. He has had his own website, which is great, that is constantly maintained. And he has information about his books there and blogs about various topics there. So that's showing up as number one. His number two is his staff profile page on the Vanderbilt CFT website. That's not surprising at all. One thing that we will talk about is vanderbilt.edu, because we are a .edu, we are automatically granted almost pristine page rank in terms of all of the search algorithms, because .edus are implicitly trusted more by every search engine because we're institutions of higher learning, and supposedly we provide a higher level of kind of review and consistency about what's posted on our domain names. So if you do have a profile page on the Vanderbilt website, which if you're a faculty member, you definitely have at least one page on the Vanderbilt website that's your faculty profile. You might have more, but those pages are always going to appear pretty high in your search results simply because of that .edu placement. So if you do have that Vanderbilt page and you also have a website, or let's say you don't have a website and all you have is a LinkedIn, which I feel like LinkedIn is a great first step of, if you don't want to be maintaining your own website, absolutely create a LinkedIn profile and curate that. So if you have one of those, make sure that your Vanderbilt site links to that other site. Again, because .edus have such great page rank that your website being linked to from the .edu is then going to improve the page rank of your separate website. And it's going to make sure, again, that that connection is made in Google's brain of, oh, this person is this person. And so it just helps make those connections. So all the interlinking is super important. Derek's Twitter shows up here again. So he's got his Twitter. And then we're going to see various news things about Derek. And he speaks regularly at conferences. So his whole first page is entirely about Derek. And I'm pretty sure if we go further on into it, it's all going to be pretty much about the Derek that we all know and love as well. Anybody else want to go? I'm checking in the chat to see if somebody volunteered. Well, let me answer these questions. Yes, I was very young in one photo, Derek. I know I haven't looked at my profile on Pinterest in forever either. So how to make social media content private? That's a lot of the platforms. That's an option. Like in Instagram, you can either have a public profile or you can have a private profile. The only public profile that I have is Twitter, and that's because I use Twitter to engage at conferences with other peers and professionals. But otherwise, all of my other social media platforms I set as private. So all you're going to ever see if you land on a social media profile is my profile photo, whatever I have my name set to on that platform. And then most of them will show kind of like that bio line, but none of the content that you post is actually going to show up in Google. It can't be indexed because it is all private. Every platform does that differently. It's usually going to be in your account settings. Just Google, hey, how do I make my Instagram profile private? How do I make my Twitter profile private? And it's usually like a checkbox, literally, that's like, I don't want this to be public. Again, highly recommend doing that. And also going through and getting rid of profiles that you're not using anymore. I'm kind of glad. I feel like I am in the last generation almost of like when I was in college, there was no Facebook. When I was in my early 20s was when Facebook came around. And I am very thankful that my elementary, junior high, high school, and college years are not up for grabs on social media. I'm really thankful. I have nieces and nephews, and I have a young son now. And I'm like, wow, like they have their entire lives are out there. And, you know, a lot of times you're not using the best judgment in what you're posting when you're that age. So again, Jacqueline will talk a lot more about social media from a academic promoting yourself standpoint, from a personal standpoint for personal platforms, highly, highly, highly recommend keeping those private. Like that doesn't need to be in the Google, the Google's words.